Okay, the topics that we need to discuss for week 12 are 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3. We will start with the statistical hypothesis, general concept. Definition: statistical hypothesis is an assertion or a conjecture concerning one or more populations. Assertion or assumption, you can say some statement that supports the population parameters. We test a statistical hypothesis by collecting sample data and determining whether the sample data supports or refutes our hypothesis. This is in lifetime we are practicing this kind of things in general science and engineering or research everywhere. For example, even in management concept, or take that some company announces that their products, the products are stronger in quality, assuming that only two out of 1,000 products are defective, found to be defective. That's the claim by the company. The defective rate is very less. They want to, they are claiming so. So their claim is our assertion. They say that their defective rate, getting a defective is our success. So probability is 0.002. Only 2 out of 1,000 pieces are defective, isn't it? Considered to be defective. In this case, this is their claim. So we will have an assertion. We have a statement given by the company. We want to check this one. We take a sample of 200 or 400 as per our convenience. We take and test this one, and we will either accept this statement or reject this statement. So in this case, we reject the statement if the probability goes more than 0.002, isn't it? We cannot reject when it is lesser than 0.002. Because if it is lesser than 0.002, their claim is almost true. So sometimes we will reject the cases when it is one-sided, either greater than or lesser than. Sometimes we will reject the cases when they are just not equal to 0.002. So this is called a one-tail or two-tail. We will discuss in coming chapters. Right. So in this case, we reject their claim when the probability is greater than this one. Okay, greater than this one. Fine. Another example I can give you. A teacher says that his average class mark is 80%. He says that all his students will score an average of 80%. So his average is 80%. His average score in the classroom by his students. That is our some assumption. You take average as mu. That mu is equal to 80. If you take a sample, what he is proud of is his students are scoring good, isn't it? If it is 80 or more, he is good, he is success. If it is less than 80, we can reject his claim, isn't it? So in this case, again, we take a sample from the classroom and test what average you will find. If the mu is lesser than 80%, we reject his claim. If it is greater than, okay, he is good. His claim is acceptable, isn't it? So in some cases, most of the time, equality is our exception, assertion. Rejection is either greater than or lesser than, sometimes inequality, when it is not equal to 80. For example, another example we can give. A company gives the performance of their employees as 60%. performance of their employees rate, performance rate has been given as 60%. When we take a sample and find that the percentage is around 90%, then their claim is wrong, isn't it? Their employees are performing extremely good, they are underestimating their performance. Or if you find, if you take an example and you find the employees are performing very less, average is 30%, still their claim is wrong. Their employees are performing under, they are underperforming, but they are considering plus 60. In both the cases, if it is far away from 60, higher than 60 or more lesser than 60, both the cases we can reject. So in this case, we will reject if it is not equal to 60. So these kind of assumptions we are going to make in hereafter, maybe in chapter 10 or 11. The hypothesis testing is coming on in chapter 11 as well. Okay, so that's what given here. We test a statistical hypothesis by collecting sample data, determining whether the sample data supports or refutes our hypothesis. The structure of hypothesis testing will be formulated with the use of the term null hypothesis, which refers to any hypothesis we wish to test denoted by H0. That's what our assumption, the statement given the problem, really the claim, all are considered to be H0. H0 stands for hypothesis null hypothesis. And if there is an if you reject this one, you should accept another one. So alternatively, there is another hypothesis, which is if H0 is mu is equal to mu0, some value, isn't it? Then H1 alternate hypothesis may be either mu greater than mu0 or mu lesser than mu0 or mu not equal to mu0. Any one of these three cases will come. This one is called a rejection in the right side. Mu is greater than mu0. Rejection in the left side, left tail. This is two-tailed, right? So all the three examples, we have just seen some examples for this case. I will give a common example. Will you find which case is it? An insurance company claims that they will settle the uh, claim within 1 month time. Within 1 month time, right? So what kind of assumption is this? So their assumption is not always equal. Sometimes it is different, isn't it? Most of the time, if not specified, the null hypothesis will be equality. And now we get another statement from an insurance company that says that their the claim settlement for speed is 1 month. They will settle the claim within 1 month time. So what we call it null hypothesis. Their average time of settlement is given as 1 month. When will you reject this claim? If they are speeder than this one, you don't have any problem. If they give your claim within 1 day or 2 days, you're happy, isn't it? So you will not reject this claim when it is lesser than 1 month. We will reject this claim when it is greater than 1 month, isn't it? So this is so area of rejection is matter of fact. Area of rejection is right side or left side or both the sides. That's the question, isn't it? That's the question. And these three cases will be there: left rejection, right rejection, or both sides. So the rejection of H0 leads to the acceptance of another alternative hypothesis called H1, alternative hypothesis, denoted by H1, right? Fine. Understanding of the different roles played by the null hypothesis. Understanding of the different roles played by the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis is crucial to one's understanding of the rudiments of the hypothesis testing, the basics of hypothesis testing. Null hypothesis H0 nullifies or opposes H1 and is often the logical complement of H1. See the relation between null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. we always arrive at one of the following two conclusions. If our sample data is convincing enough, we will reject S0. So we are always trying to refute the claim. So if our data convincing our statement, our assumption, we will reject their claim. If our sample data is not convincing enough, so we have to accept S0. The best illustration for a novice lies in the predicament encountered in a jury trial. The null and alternative hypothesis are for a jury trial, assuming that the trial always starts with assuming the defendant is innocent, and the and the party and the lawyer has to prove that he is a defendant, that is the defendant is guilty by using proper evidence, isn't it? The hypothesis S0 stands in opposition to H1 and is maintained unless H1 is supported by evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So evidence should be beyond a reasonable doubt to accept H1. Otherwise, H1 will be rejected. Obviously, H0 will be accepted. Now, there are two types of errors while we are testing the hypothesis. There are two types of errors possible. One, type 1 error, rejecting the null hypothesis even though it is true. How is it possible? Sometimes in reality hypothesis is not true, but due to the nature of sample size or some error that we take in sampling, assuming that when you take a small sample it may not reflect the original nature of the population, isn't it? So though the claim is really true, sometimes we will miss the claim, we will accidentally reject it because you might have taken sample size very less, 10 or 12, or some errors encountered is maximum, isn't it? So under some conditions, under some circumstances, isn't it? Circumstance, we might have rejected the H0. Such error is called rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. It's called type 1 error. Type 1 error. Next, we will find what is the probability of committing type 1 error. What is the chance? Then we know what is my confidence level. If my confidence level is 99%, my error level is 1%. Now you understand where I am coming to. Okay? So type 1 level, type 1 error will give you a level of significance. The probability of committing type 1 error is alpha. We're coming to that one next, right? So what's next? Type 2 error, accepting H0 when it is false. When it is false, so we are testing the hypothesis given by them. The claim is not actually true, but our taken sample proves that it is true. So though it is false claim, sometimes we will accept it due to the nature of the sample size or something went wrong with our calculations, isn't it? So accepting the hypothesis H0, null hypothesis, when it is actually false, is called a type 2 error. And here also we have a probability. We will discuss all those things coming topics. Note, statisticians consider type 1 error to be the more serious one. So you may commit type 2 error, it will not be harmful, but type 1 error will be more serious one. The table as a table of the type 1 and type 2 errors have been given here. H0 is 0 and you are not rejecting. Do not reject H0 when it is true. That is correct decision. But when it is false, you accept it. Do not reject stands for accept. Then it is type 2 error. Rejecting H0 when it is true is called type 1 error. When I think rejecting it, H0 is false, it is correct decision. Now the point comes here. The probability of type 1 error is alpha, the level of significance, the relation between alpha and confidence level, isn't it? You know, confidence level is given as 95%. Now you know this is 1 minus alpha 100 multiplied by 100, isn't it? So what is 1 minus alpha? 0.95. Therefore alpha is 0.05. This alpha, the chance of committing error, is complement to the confidence level. If you have confidence of 98% that your results are accurate or true, then the chance of error is just 5%. And the type, that is alpha. Alpha standing for type 1 error. But here type 2 error is different, denoted by beta, depends upon the true value of the population parameter we are testing. So beta is different. Then the alpha is actually familiar to us. We have been dealing with it right from the beginning. Alpha, the probability of type 1 error is significant level, right? And beta is a different task we will calculate. The probability of type 2 error denoted by beta depends upon the true value of the population parameter we are testing. So depending on the value of the population parameter. The power of, there is another concept, the power of the hypothesis testing. The power of a test is the probability of rejecting S0, given that specific alternating hypothesis is true. What is it? What is type 1 error? Can you recall it? Type 1, reject and check it. Reject H0 when it is true. Reject H0 when it is true. Type 2 error is accept H0 when it is true. This, the probability of committing type 1 error is alpha, the probability of committing type 2 error is beta. Now what is meant by power? The probability of rejecting H0 when alternative hypothesis is true. Alternative hypothesis is true, because alternative hypothesis is true, we will accept H0, isn't it? When it is false, when it is false. So when I mean null hypothesis is false, it means that the alternative hypothesis is true. So we are rejecting H1 when it is true, but we end up accepting as rejecting H0 instead of acceptation. So beta is the probability of accepting H0. The 1 minus beta will be probability of rejecting H0 when H1 is true. That's what the power of hypothesis testing. We generally want our tests to have higher power, a larger power. So the power of the test is equal to 1 minus beta. The probability of committing both types of error can be reduced by increasing the sample size. The only easiest way to reduce both the types of error is increasing the sample size. Now, a critical region, also known as the rejection region, is set of values for the test statistic for which the null hypothesis is rejected. The area on the Z normal curve, we can say. For example, I will give you a small information. I have a statement that the average IQ of certain people of certain city. We will take a city A. People of city A is primary to be 60, isn't it? 60. Now, a research team is coming and testing this claim. They can reject the claim if the average IQ is much more than the 60. Isn't it? They reject the claim if the average IQ is much lesser than the 60. So, if H0 is mu is equal to 60, the alternative hypothesis will be mu not equal to 60. Rejection falls on both the sides, right? Now, the claim says that the confidence level for this one is 95, say, 90 percentage confident, 90 percentage confident. What is the possibility of error? Alpha. Alpha is 10%, which is 0.1, isn't it? So when rejection falls on both the sides, the normal curve, we draw the normal curve. Alpha should be shared to both the sides. So middle value is 0, alpha by 2, this area is alpha by 2 and this area is alpha by 2. So rejection, the chance of committing error is 10%. That is 5, okay, this is 0. Alpha is 0.1. So alpha by 2 is 0.05. So alpha by 2 is 0. Why I should find alpha by 2? I should share the error to both the ends because rejection falls on both the ends. So I give alpha by 2 to the extreme right and alpha by 2 area. So Z value here we will find for which the right side area is alpha by 2. And the same negative is the same value negative and you will find for which the area left side area is alpha by 2, right? So that your confidence interval will be here. You got it? So in this case, what I am coming to say, the rejection, the critical region, this region where alpha by 2 falls is our critical region. These values of Z are called critical values. We will discuss the critical values. The value of Z1 or T1, if it is T curve, then it is T1. The value of Z1 or negative Z1 is called a critical value, and the area where the rejection is falling called critical region. So known as the critical region is known as the area of rejection, isn't it? If the observed test statistic is in the critical region, then we reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternate hypothesis. Okay. In hypothesis testing, a critical value is a point on the test distribution. That is what we discussed, critical value. Point on the distribution that is compared to the test statistic to determine whether the rejection to reject the null hypothesis or not. If the absolute value of your test statistic is greater than the critical value, you can declare statistical significance and reject the null hypothesis. Okay. You say that this is your critical value, isn't it? 0, is it 1 or is it 2? Is it the same? Is it in two different signs, isn't it? And your rejection area falls here. So this is your critical value, table value, isn't it? And you are calculating and finding the Z for the particular problem and finding that the original Z falling this side. That is the calculated, the absolute value of your test statistic, calculated value is greater than the critical value, is exceeding the critical value, right? When you find absolute value, take positive side. You can declare the hypothesis, null hypothesis has been rejected because this it falls in the rejection area. The use of p-values for decision making in testing hypothesis. A p-value is used in hypothesis testing to help you support or reject the null hypothesis. P-value is probability value. The p-value is the evidence against the null hypothesis. The smaller the p-value, the stronger the evidence that you should reject the null hypothesis. So property, if p is smaller, then you should reject the null hypothesis. The stronger evidence that you should reject the null hypothesis. So finding p-value is coming in the next chapter. So p-values are expressed as decimals, although it may be easier to understand what they are if you convert them into percentage, just like property. When you convert the property into percentage, you will understand the chance. For example, a p-value of 0.0254 is 2.54 percentage. This means that there is a 2.54 chance your results could be random, happened by chance. On the other hand, a large p-value 0.9, which means 90 percentage, means your results have a 90% probability of being completely random and not due to anything in your experiment. Therefore, the smaller p-value, the more important significant your results are. When you run a hypothesis test, you compare the p-value from your test to the alpha level you selected when you ran the test. Alpha levels can also be written in percentages. Okay. Graphically, the p-value is the area in the tail of the probability distribution. It is calculated when you run hypothesis test and is the area to the right side of the test statistic. If you are running a two-tailed test, it's the area to the left and to the right. We have discussed right now. This is p-value, the area, the regression area value. Just a property under the curve. If you consider its area, it is under the curve, it's a property, right? Approach to hypothesis testing with a fixed probability of type 1 error. Approach to hypothesis testing with a fixed probability of type 1 error. Type 1 error, alpha, the probability of alpha. Probability of type 1 error is called alpha. State the null and alternative hypothesis. This is the procedure, gentlemen, we have to follow when we do hypothesis testing. Mostly, okay, when we are testing hypothesis, we have to follow all these 5 steps. State first immediately, as soon as you read the test question, you should identify what is the claim, null hypothesis, and what is the alternate hypothesis. It is one-sided or two-sided. One-sided means if this is mu is equal to mu 0, and if you happen to write mu rejection is in the left, this is one-sided. If I write mu is not equal to mu 0, it is two-sided. Rejection falls on both sides. So writing the null and alternate hypothesis is the first ever step, right? Second, choose a significant level. It will be given in the problem. Either they will give confidence level or they will give alpha directly. Alpha significance level. Most frequently used significance levels are 95%. I mean, confidence levels are 95%. So alpha is 5%. Otherwise, 99% confidence level, alpha is 1%. If nothing is given, obviously choose alpha is 0.05. If significance level is not given, most popular choice is alpha is 0.05. Choose an appropriate test statistic and establish the critical region based on alpha. So we should choose whether t test or z test should be used to find the z value or t value, because we will have two different values. One is table value, critical value of z, and another is calculated value, right? And compare this one and we will reject S0 if the computed test statistics is in the critical region. If the calculated Z value is greater than the critical value and falls in the critical region, you will reject S0. Otherwise, accept H0. That's it. So third part is calculating choosing the right test statistic. Z is equal to, mostly we will choose Z is equal to x bar minus mu. You remember mu x bar divided by sigma over root 10, the most popular Z value. can be calculated by using sample mean, population mean, isn't it? Standard deviation, standard error. This term is called standard error. And if it is t, it will be similarly x bar minus mu x bar divided by s over root n. Right, we will find either t, mostly t and z will be used. If sample size is very small, the better choice is t distribution. If it is normally high, it will be z distribution. Reject if, okay, rejection is being discussed. So 5 steps. Last, draw the scientific or engineering conclusion. What is the conclusion from rejecting or accepting H0? What you come to say to the society? That's it. And significance testing p-value approach. If this is not by using p-value, this method is with the fixed probability of type 1 error. You know what is significance level, then you proceed these five steps. Now, significant testing, the same hypothesis testing by using p-value approach. State the null and alternative hypothesis, the same first step. Second step, choose an appropriate test statistic. The third step in the previous case. Okay? Choose an appropriate test statistic and establish the critical region based on alpha. Isn't it? That is third step here. Here we don't want to choose alpha. We choose the appropriate test Z over T and use the formula. For there are different formulas for one sample, two samples. And for using mean and using proportion. Almost we have seen those kind of formulas. They will be repeating again. Compute the p-value based on the computed value of the test statistics. So first choose Z or T here. Z or T and calculate it using its formula, and then using based on this value calculate the p-value. We will see how to calculate that when the problem comes. Use judgment based on the p-value. So based on the p-value, probability value, if probability value is very small, what you got to do? The knowledge of the scientific system and the knowledge of the scientific system. Okay. Information you need. Use judgment based on p-value and the knowledge of scientific system. Okay. P-value is the strong evidence against null hypothesis. Right? So what you say, what we have seen in this case, remember it? P-value is the evidence against null hypothesis. The smaller the p-value, the stronger the evidence that you should reject the null hypothesis. Okay. So here we are. So only 4 steps involved here. The exercise start 10.4, the first problem. Here, some probability values have been given. What this problem is all about? What this problem is all about? A fabric manufacturer believes that the proportion of orders for raw material arriving late is given as P is equal to 0.6. Probability of getting the materials arriving late is 0.6. Now a random sample of 10 orders, just 10 orders, shows that 3 or lesser arrived late. Out of 10 orders, 3 or lesser arrived late. The hypothesis hypothesis P is 0.6 is our null hypothesis given, should be rejected in favor of the alternative hypothesis. Use binomial distribution to find A and B. So what is your null hypothesis here? It's 0. P is 0.6. Then S1 alternate hypothesis P not equal to 0.6. We don't use any. Okay, they have said that the hypothesis that this hypothesis, null hypothesis, should be rejected in favor of alternate hypothesis. They have decided what is to be done, isn't it? Null hypothesis to be rejected in favor of the alternate. So we are going to choose alternate hypothesis. Let's say use binomial distribution. Find the probability of committing type 1 error. That's a question. Probability of committing type 1 error if the true proportion is 0.6. Actually, really the proportion is H0, supporting H0, but you reject H0. What is type 1 error? What is type 1 error? Can you recall it? Rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. So we have to find the probability of doing so. Remember, I'm writing here. Alpha is probability of type 1 error. Isn't it? What is type 1 error? Rejecting H0 when it is true. Yes, it is true, we have been given. Now, how would you reject? When will you reject? By in your sample of 10 orders, only 3 or lesser arrived late, isn't it? So it doesn't meet the required 0.6. When you write 3 over 10, it will be lesser than. So what is the probability? When will you reject? If lesser than 3 or if people, sorry, if the late arrivals are lesser than 3 or equal to 3, certainly you will say that the conclusion is not appealing. It's not a probability matching the 0.6. So what is the concept here? What is alpha? Alpha is the type 1 error happens when the x value is lesser than or equal to 3. When actual probability P is 0.6. That's the point. Even though the original probability of success is 0.6 given here, isn't it? But the number of late arrivals is lesser than or equal to 3 out of 10, isn't out of 10, then you commit an error. You will not accept the null hypothesis. You say this is wrong, null hypothesis rejected, because only 3 out of 10 is maximum 3 out of 10 is arriving late. The probability is coming at 0.3, isn't it? So we will commit error. We will commit error of rejecting H0 if probability of X is less than or equal to 3. And this probability of X should be calculated by using binomial distribution. That's the point we are arriving to. So by using binomial probability, what is the formula of binomial probability? Probability of X is less than or equal to small x, or X is equal to X. For binomial distribution, it is NCX P raised to X Q raised to N minus X. And X starts from 1 to N set. X starts from 0 to N. Okay? This is the formula. Now, this problem, N is given as 10. N is 10. Probability of success is given for this case when actual proportion is 0.6. So, probability of success P is 0.6. Then what is Q? Q is 1 minus P, 0.4. We have all the information, N, P, Q. Now, small x varies from 0 to 3. And without using calculator, by using the tables given the textbook, we can find the probability of binomial as well. Probability of binomial, Poisson, normal, everything can be done by using the tables. Okay, what should I do here is further. Let me complete this problem. I just want to erase this part. Okay, guys. I'm writing here. So I'm writing this one as probability of x is 0 plus probability of x is 1 plus probability of x is 2 and probability of x is 3. We have to sum those probabilities. But instead, I use table to calculate this one. What is it? Summation x from 0 to 3. X value changes from 0 to 3. And n is 10 cx, p is 0.6 to the power x, and q is 0.4 to the power 10 minus x. Without using calculator, I'm going to solve this one. You are allowed to do this one in the exams, right? What we are going to do here is find the n. N is 10, probability is 0.6, and x is up to 3. That will be the key point, not exact 3. The table will give cumulative probability up to 3, right? So if you want up to if you want between 2 and 3, you find up to 3 and find up to 1, subtract them. So the table will give you cumulative probability, the area, left side, the value of x, isn't it? Similar way. Okay. Now note down this one. Again, we will not write this. When I move out of this PowerPoint, all will be deleted. So the answer alone will be written, isn't it, here for case A? Up to x less than or equal to 3, for n is equal to 10, probability is 0.6. I need to find the probability from the table. So note down the information. Okay. I move out of this. So I'm going to the binomial distribution. N is 10. There are many tables for binomial. There are 9 tables including binomial and Poisson. So come down. N is 10. We stop here. This is N. And this column is for x. X is up to 3. X is up to 3 here. Okay. Through this 3, move ahead, move this row, and check where is your property 0.6, which column number, this one. 1, 2, 3, 4th from the last, isn't it? So property P, that's property for, this is binomial. See, from x is 0 to r is 3 in our case, r is given here, right? And when n and p are known, n is 10, p is 0.6. For 10, 1, 2, 3, 4th row against third, x is 3. Come here, 0. What is this? 0.0548. That is it. This is the cumulative probability distribution. 0.0548. That is the answer of this problem. Now let's go to this PowerPoint and write the answer. The answer of this case A. Probability of x less than or equal to 3 is 0.0548. This is when p is 0.6. So actual p is 0.6, but you commit error of rejecting this one because the number of arrivals are lesser than 3 or fewer, isn't it? So obviously when you calculate here, the probability is lesser than 6, so you reject their claim. Next, again, probability of committing type 2 error. Now this is type 2 error, and you should be careful when what is the case of type 2 error. So type 2 error, I'm solving B here, and we should remember the null hypothesis, probability of binomial distribution. Using binomial distribution is the concept. Null hypothesis has been given as 0, p is equal to 0.6. Therefore H1 is P less than 0.6. Okay, what is type 2 error? Type 2 error. So probable type 2 error, we are looking for finding probability of type 2 error. And what is type 2 error? Accepting H0. In the previous case, it was rejecting H0. Accepting H0 when it is false. When it is false, yes. P is the actual P's are not equal to 0.6 given us. So there are three cases here. So this first case I am writing when P is 0.3. There are three cases. All the three should be dealt separately. So first case, when probability is 0.3, which is not actually H, isn't it? This is just less. This case is given here. Actual probability is 0.3, so we are following. We should have accepted H1, but we are accepting H0. That is committing. That is type 2 error, isn't it? Because actual probability is 0.3, which is lesser than 0.6. So obviously we should have accepted H1, but we are committing type 2 error, so we accept H0. Clear? So if you want to accept H0, the calculated probability should have been 0.6. More than 3 arrivals should have been there, isn't it? More than 3 arrivals should have been there. So that's what I'm doing. So if you the concept of this problem is if the random sample of 10 orders shows 3 or fewer arrival, we will reject H0 and accept this one. If the arrivals are lesser than 3, we will accept H0, isn't it? If the that is the concept that based on this concept you are working. So if the number of arrivals are more than 3, you will go against this concept. You will accept H0. So this is what we are working on. So the probability of type 2 error, committing type 2 error will come when the number of late arrivals is greater than 3. Because as per the given statement, you should reject H0 when the number of late arrivals are fewer than or equal to 3. So if X exceeds 3, obviously you reject you accept H0, isn't it? You accept H0. Clear? Read the statement carefully. You have to understand. So how can I write? But our table will give cumulative probability up to 3. So we want to write this one 1 minus probability of X less than or equal to 3. But the first case, this is B1 when P is 0.3 and N is 10. So from the table, this one is here. From the table, we will find this probability. X is up to 3 and probability is not 0.6 here, 0.3. So difference will be 0.03, N is 10. So from the table again, I'm going to the table. So case the problem 1B, case 1, isn't it? Okay. I'm going to the binomial table. Remember X is up to 3, isn't it? X is up to, so you can write here the formula, which is summation X from 0 to 3, N is 10, 10Cx, P is 0.3 to the power, X, Q is 0.7 to the power 10 minus X. So 1 minus this value is from the table. Go to the table. N is 10, X is 3, the same probability is 0.3. Maybe here somewhere. The fourth from the first, it is fourth times. Okay? n is 10, this 3 is 6496. The probability is 6496. Let me move here. Now the answer is for B, first part, probability of x greater than 3 is 1 minus what probability we found from the table, 0.6496. When you subtract, the answer is 0.3504. This is probability of committing type 2 error beta. We have calculated beta. But for only this value, there are three cases we can accept H1. Accept accept H0 to type 2 error, accepting H0 when it is wrong, it is false. There are three cases. First property is 0.3. Second, we should do the similar way. We should do B2, the same, isn't it? If you have more than 3 arrivals, you will go against this concept. So if the number of arrivals are lesser or 3, you will reject null hypothesis, isn't it? So we will accept the null hypothesis if the arrivals are more than 3. That's what we are doing when probability of x equal to greater than 3 when p is 0.5. The actual 0.4, second case. Now this can be written as 1 minus probability of x less than or equal to 3 when p is 0.4, n is 10 from the table. You will find this part as 0.3823, and the answer is 0.6177. And I leave this third part to you. You can find p. The same work when p is 0.05. The answer for this case is probability of x greater than or equal to greater than 3 when the probability 0.5 is 0.8281. You try this case, okay? And that's the end of this problem. Let me move to the next problem. Okay. The answers are here in this problem. The proportion of adults, a different application. The proportion of adults living in a small town who are college graduates is estimated to be p is equal to 0.6. So to test this hypothesis, this is the hypothesis we are going to test, isn't it? So we call it H0. Null hypothesis H0 is this given here. See, null hypothesis H0 is p is equal to 0.6. Okay, what we gonna do? This is our null hypothesis. So obviously, alternate hypothesis H1 is p not equal to 0.6. Okay? P not equal to 0.6. Not less than or greater than, not equal to 6. So rejection in the previous case, previous problem, rejection will fallen on the left side, isn't it? But here rejection area may be on both the sides. Okay. Again, read the problem carefully to understand what's going on. What is your question here? Evaluate alpha. So probability of type 1 error. Evaluate beta. Probability of type 2 error. Some discussion. You need to assess the situations good or wrong, isn't it? Let's do it at the end. Now let's find the probability of type 1 error, probability of type 2 error. Okay. Again, come from the first. This is a given statement. What is it? The proportion of adults living in a small town who are college graduates. Okay. Out of the population, 60% are college graduates. That's the meaning. Out of the population, adults population. Isn't it? To test this hypothesis, a random sample of 15 adults have been chosen. Sample of 15. N is 15. N is 15. Okay. And we should use binomial. The given use binomial. So write the formula for binomial. Binomial x n p. The formula is ncx p power x q power n minus x. So when you know p, you should identify q. Okay. Sample size 15 has been accepted. Now, if the number of college graduates out of this 15, the number of college graduates in this sample is anywhere from 6 to 12. You are choosing 15 members, and if you find at least 6 or maximum 12 graduates, we shall not reject null hypothesis. We accept null hypothesis, isn't it? We accept this one when you find 6 to 12 members. If you take a 15 member sample and find that 8 members are graduate, you accept S0. You take a 15 member sample and find that 11 members are graduates, you really accept this one, isn't it? And minimum 0.6, minimum 6 or maximum 12, you accept this. So committing type 1 error. The probability is known to be 0.6, but the number of people graduated falls lesser than 6 or more than 12. Isn't it? You understand? So if the information from the sample is wrong, but the probability is 0.6, the error 1 appears. So that's what I'm coming to say here. Isn't it? So probability of alpha, evaluate alpha. Alpha is probability of type 1 error, which is probability of x lesser than 6 or means addition. Probability of x greater than 12 when the probability is 0.6. The probability is also probability is supporting H0, but the number of graduates does not support the H0. So we are going with the number of graduates. So if the number of graduates are lesser than 6 or greater than 12, we don't mind the property, we reject H0. That is called type 1 error. Is it clear? So we have to find the property by using binomial distribution where P is 0.6 and N is 15. And you know, greater than 12 cannot be found from the table. Lesser than should be converted to lesser than, and less than or equal to should be there. So it's not 6. I can write up to 5. Probability of x less than or equal to 5, not equal to 6 is not allowed, isn't it? If minimum 6 members are there, it is supporting an H0. So lesser than 6 n set to 5. The first part, x less than or equal to 5. Second part, I can write 1 minus, because here it is greater than 1 minus probability of x less than or equal to 12. So you understand, there are 12 members. Up to 12 I find the probability and I subtract the probability. No, I either we had to add, this is not between them. So we have to add these two parts, isn't it? This is this part and this part, because this is greater than has been written as 1 minus probability of x less than or equal to. From the table, this one and this one could be found and then just substitute here. Okay, when x is less than or equal to 5, I write the answer here and then we will check in the table, right? For x less than or equal to 5, the answer from the table is 0.0338 plus 1 minus, for x less than or equal to 12, when n is 15, p is 0.6, the probability is under binomial distribution 9729. Now when you add the first two and subtract the last one, you get 0.0609. This is alpha for this problem. Error percentage is 6% approximately. So 94% you are confident you will not reject S0, right? This is alpha. And you remember, we will check the values of the probability on the binomial distribution table. Let me check. The first one is 0.338. The second one is 9729. Remember this. I'm going to. Okay. When n is 15, go to the 15. N is 15 here. Okay. X is up to 5. First case up to 5. Probability is 0.6. So move this way, come here, this is probability 0.0338, that's good. Next, x is up to 12, same, probability 0.6, 9729, you are here. So the values that we have written are exactly matching the table, isn't it? Okay, now go ahead to solve problem B. Case B. What is B? Beta, we are finding beta, which is probability of type 2 error. Probability of type 2 error. Which is, what is the meaning of type 2 error? Accepting H0 when it is false. So we accept H0 when the number of graduates are between 6 to 12. Okay, it is false when the probability is not equal to 0.6, lesser than and greater than. So there are two cases. We are on the first case, isn't it? So type 2 error occurs because of this case. So we will accept because the number of graduates the sample are between 6 and 12, including 6 and 12, right? So I can write the probability of X is lying between 6 and 12. But it is true because the probability is S0 is true because the probability is no, sorry, S0 is false. S0 is false. S0 is false because the probability is 0.5, not 6. Isn't it? Only 0.6 will support H0. So S0 is false because the probability is 0.5, and I accept H0 because the number of graduates fall in this interval X to 6 to 12. So from the table, I cannot directly find this one. So there are 15 samples. So up to 12, I will find the first probability. Now this is 6 benchmarks and the 5 here. Up to 5, I will find another probability. If I remove this part, I will get the area between 6 and 12, isn't it? So what I should write is probability of X less than or equal to 12 minus probability of X less than or equal to 5. If I remove up to less than or equal to 5, 6 will be included here in the interval. So these two properties should be found from the table. When P is small, probability of success for binomial trial is 0.5 and N is 15, isn't it? And N is 15. Because of this small size of sample, we commit errors. Probability of X less than or equal to 12 from the table is 0.9963 minus probability of X less than or equal to 5 for P small p 0.5 and N is 15. You get 0.1509. Subtract them, the answer is 0.8454. 5, 4. So beta, this is beta 5. For first case, we have to do this for second case as well. Second case, property is slightly different, that's all. Case C. You can check these values on the table. Now, case B2. B2, the same. Beta is probability of type 2 error, which is when probability of X lies between 6 and 12, even though the probability when the probability P is 0.7 and N is 15. This can be written as probability of X less than or equal to 12 minus probability of X less than or equal to 5. So from the table you will find this one as because now the probability from the table you should find under this P is 0.7. Answer will be different from the previous one. 8732 minus for this one it is 0.0037. Subtraction will get you 0.8695. Okay, that's the end of B. And let's discuss C. Do we think that this procedure is looking good? Because finding error type B, we are not far away from 0.6 when you take 0.5 or 0.7. If you want to really commit error, the probability should be a little bit far away from 0.6, maybe 0.3 or 0.8, 0.9 here, isn't it? So this procedure is not so good because the probabilities taken for evaluating beta are not far away from the original assumption of null hypothesis, right? Error will be very small. Okay, that is the conclusion for case C. And now you find answers here. But this is for next week. We will stop here. Thank you very much.